I'm John Bachman. Welcome to another special hour-long edition of Insiders. Today we hear from the congressional candidates in Iowa's new 3rd District. With me to ask the questions, our chief political reporter, Dave Price. Our guests today are both incumbents. Republican Congressman Tom Latham of the current 4th Congressional District has served 9 terms in Washington. Democratic Congressman Leonard Boswell of the current 3rd District has served 8 terms. This is one of only 2 races in the entire country that pits incumbent representatives against each other. Our thanks to both of you for joining us. And Dave, you'll begin the question.
First, let us just say I can't wait till this redistricting thing is done.
Yes.
So you can just be a congressman in one district and not say a 4th running in a 3rd or a 5th and a 4th or whatever. Having said that, you've been in office 9 terms now. You've been in 8 terms now. We've heard a lot of talk during this campaign about federal spending, federal deficit over the years. Congressman, as I look through the records here, Congressman Latham, it looks like the national debt's gone up about $11 trillion since you've been in, and Congressman Boswell about $10.5 trillion or so. I'm just curious, how do you each make your case to voters that you're better than the other person when it comes to reducing federal spending with those numbers?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having us, and John, congratulations on 25 years here at WHO.
Couple more weeks.
There you go. I think you have to look at the voting records, and when you look at the Wall Street $700 billion bailout, the stimulus package that's going to cost well over $1 trillion, the health care bill, another $2.6 trillion of additional spending. I think, and Congressman Boswell voted for those things. I voted against them. So I think you look at the records, and that's one nice thing in this race is you do have records to compare. And so voters can really look at it, see who is actually on the side of being fiscally conservative and ones who want to spend more money.
What about those totals? How do you reach a total like that with a fiscally conservative record that you're talking about?
Well, most of that spending, or an awful lot of it, came in the previous Congress when President Obama was in office, and you had total control of the Senate and the House with the other party. And that's when the stimulus was passed. That's when the health care bill was passed. Cap and trade, a lot of those things that are very, very expensive. And, that's over $4 trillion of what I said as far as additional spending.
Congressman Boswell, what's your take?
Well, again, we do have a voting record and we've got a history to look at, and so I think you probably ought to look at that, but you can't start 2 wars and then not pay for them. And that's happened. And it wasn't too many years ago we were on a track to be out of debt just a year or so ago when President Clinton left office, and then President Bush came in, and a lot of things changed. We quit doing things we should have kept doing, like PAYGO. We should have kept doing that. And so the war started, weren't paid for it, came up with a separate budget item, and the military is pretty good at figuring out what's going to cost, so we knew that. And then did a tax break, same time, and it just doesn't jive. So a little amnesia, but we'll talk about. I'll try to remind you, Tom, but it was Secretary Paulson that came to us and said the sky was falling, and we got to do something, or we're going over a cliff that will make the Great Depression look like a picnic. And it was a very troublesome announcement, no question about it. And so we had to deal with it, and we'll probably have some more talk about that, but I had a father and a grandfather that talked to me a lot about depression and kind of getting out and trying to get through those things when trying to grow up, and I didn't want to go there if we didn't have to go there, and as it turned out, we did not have to go there. We did have to go into a pretty big recession, though.
Congressman Latham, what about that? Because many economists say that the stimulus plan at least got us away from a depression, that we needed something drastic at that point.
Well, the stimulus, if it were directed correctly, are you talking about the Wall Street?
I'm talking about really both the one you voted for, and you.
Well, he voted for both the Wall Street bailout, and
right,
where he picked Wall Street over Main Street here in Iowa, and also for the stimulus bill.
I'm talking about the stimulus bill.
Okay, the stimulus bill really didn't focus on jobs, on job creation. It was a huge governmental transfer, and with the interest, it's going to cost about $1.2 trillion, put our kids in debt for no benefit. And the promise at that time was by the president that if in fact that was passed, that unemployment wouldn't ever get to 8%. We'd be at 1.4%. Well, we're almost at 8% and have been over 8% for 43 months since then. It hasn't worked because it didn't direct funding into infrastructure. Is only 3.6% of all of that spending actually went to roads and bridges that could have actually created some jobs. The infrastructure is what we really need. If you're going to create jobs, that's the investment to have.
Congressman Boswell, very quickly.
Well, I've been through some hard times, and if we had not have done that, and we'd have laid off teachers and firefighters and policemen and emergency specialists and so on, how much worse would it have been? And we didn't want to go there, and people were struggling, working folks were struggling, middle class was struggling, and a lot of things were happening that we needed to put the brakes on. And it certainly could have been better, it could have been more perfect, but it did save us from going in deeper, and we did not need to do that. Cities and states were very appreciative of it, and the infrastructure things, I'd like to have been more infrastructure, but it's really helped as you realize what kind of conditions our roads and bridges are in, which we'll probably talk about that some too.
To kind of put a finer point on this quickly, if we might, Congressman Boswell, you said it's not perfect. Is there a way you look at all of this money, these figures are just too much to even comprehend for most people. While you said it avoided the Depression, was some of it not spent correctly, or what is your point with that?
Well, my point is that a lot of it was spent correctly, and it was happening quickly. The situation was really bad at that moment, and so do something quickly and not lay off teachers, not lay off firefighters, not lay off police forces, and if we'd have done that, what that would have done to the things already bad, plus make it unsafe, and it was not a wise thing to do.
And Congressman Latham, are you saying that just the pure infusion of cash must have had some kind of effect? It's just not targeted the right way, or what? How are you looking?
It certainly wasn't targeted the right way.
But it did something, right?
It was a governmental transfer, and a lot of the states and local communities use that money in ways that were not meant, or they put it away and deferred their costs for down the years and saved the money. So it really didn't work. And this is also where you have things like Solyndra that came out of that, $500 million lost. The IA03 electric battery came, another $250 million lost, squandered. There was just another bankruptcy Wednesday where we had about $400 million lost again. And that's it was misdirected, absolutely. And those dollars are gone, and our kids and grandchildren are going to have to pay for it.
We have to take a break. We'll let you respond when we come back, but we're also going to turn to farming. Stay with us.